What is up, everybody? It's your boy DFS Jimmy bringing you this week's edition of the FanShare Sports Course Preview Series. This week, we are at Torrey Pines, finally into the 2019 season. A little bit of a wonky event last week with the three courses and the super low scores. And congratulations to Adam Long, though, out of nowhere, Sunday victory, huge stuff, man. Besting Phil, Adam Hadwin obviously loves that course. Course history. The course history deniers did not have a great week last week. Sorry about you. But either way, great Sunday of golf. Adam Long put on a show, getting Phil and Adam Hadwin there. But this week we are on to Torrey Pines. We do have two courses this week, so we do still have a little bit of a rotation, but it's a real golf event, right? It's a real PGA Tour event. There is a real field. We have a stacked field this week. So really kind of starting to get into the swing of the golf season, starting to get in some courses that are actually challenging for these golfers. So we're going to get into that this week. But again, shout out to Adam Long. Congratulations to him. This week we are staying in California, leaving the desert of Palm Springs, off to the coasts and into Torrey Pines territory. As you see behind me here, this is on Torrey Pines South course. Difficult golf course, Torrey Pines South. So before we get into it, though, you got two courses. You got the North course, you got the South course. Golfers are going to get 3 rounds on the South course, 1 round on the North course. That's assuming they make the cut. But you're going to see a difference in the courses. There used to be a much bigger difference in the courses, but they've done some renovation in the last couple of years to the North course that's kind of made it a little more difficult. It's not nearly the reprieve from the South course that it once was, but definitely a little bit easier. And we'll check out the scorecards here in a minute and be able to take a look at and see the differences there. But really, the South course is where we're going to focus our time and energy for the most part, because it's where golfers are going to have 3 rounds. It's where most of the golf is going to be played. And it's by far and away the more iconic golf course as well. So we will touch on the North course a little bit, but as you can see behind me, though, just before we get into the cards, just what are these courses like? These are challenging, exposed, picturesque, very difficult golf holes. This facility in general, as you can see, just you look at the sloping in the fairways. Everything runs away towards the cliffs. You look at the bunkers are all in really key ranges. There are some opportunities for guys to run the ball up. There are openings to these greens, but it is a long, tough golf course that generally is affected by wind at least part of the time. There's no 2 ways about it. There are long golf holes. These are long golf courses. They're par 72s, but they're long. You're looking at 7,600 yards, one of the longest on tour for the South course. So it's a big boy golf course. Drivers, you're gonna have to be hitting driver everywhere out here. You got a lot of long par 4s. You got a lot of long par 5s. Yeah, it's a tough golf course all the way around. You mix in the wind, you mix in a little bit of weather, a little bit of elements, the dense, heavy air that Phil likes to talk about here, right on the coast, especially for the morning tee times. You got fog, ball doesn't go nearly as far. A lot of factors that go into golf this week at Torrey Pines, but really one of the best places to play golf. Golfers love the South course, as challenging as it is, and it's a super iconic place. I mean, there's been all kinds of great golf matches here throughout the years, all kinds of great spectacles of sport. So I'm looking forward to a really good week of golf. Looking forward to some actual difficult golf courses where par is a good score. The last 8 years, the winning score has averaged 11.25. So I mean, like 10 under is good enough to get it done around here. But you do got to get the ball out there, and the rough is challenging. The fairways are tight, but both of these courses actually are tough to hit fairways, right? So golfers are going to miss them. You look at the undulation in the fairways. Just look at this one hole behind me. How sloped this fairway is. You land on the wrong spot, or the fairways are firm and they get a little run on them. Guys are going to be running through the fairways even on good drives. So just a lot of things come into play here. One of the things that we'll touch on when we get into some golfers and who's played well here, who hasn't. One of the things that seems to be fairly consistent is high ball hitters. High ball hitters seems to have success here, and I think a lot of that has to do with how they come out of the rough and access some of these tight pins. They have a real high ball flight. They're able to get down at it, get out of the rough, and land it soft enough on these greens to still maintain their position and maintain par. So, but let's get into the cards, and we'll go from there. So far, let's start on the North course. Like I said, it is the easier course. Averages 0.66 strokes under par, just under 7,300 yards again. But like I said, both these courses are long, just under 7,300 yards though. And as you see, it's a par 5 golf course. It's where all of your DraftKings points are going to be made. It's where any of these guys are going to pick up leverage on the field. And when you look at the length of the par 5s, 536, 520 yards, 525, 556, all gettable. Right? All gettable for most of the big hitters in this field. And really even some of the shorter hitters. So the par 5s are where they're going to need to score. Obviously, they only get one round here, so they're going to have to take advantage of it. What's unique about this golf course is all the par 4s are really long. So your long iron ball strikers definitely have an advantage. If you're 200 plus yard clubs, that group of holes is almost as difficult as the 450 plus yard par 4s on this course. So, but really, it's about par 5 scoring here if you're going to get a leg up on the field, and then avoiding bogeys on the long par 4s. Long par 4s, long par 3s. I know it sounds simple, right? And it's just like, oh, you don't have to overthink it. Well, you don't. It's just much harder to accomplish on these courses. But guys will want to take advantage of their one round on the North course because it is their most friendly scoring environment this week. Once you get to the South course, as you'll see, it averages 1.17 strokes over par. One of the most difficult courses on tour, one of the longest courses, if not the longest course on tour that these guys will play. You see 3 of the par 5s here, not really reachable in 2 for these guys. A couple of them, sure, but a lot of these 607 yard par 5s. I mean, that's a 3-shot hole. Right. So again, you're looking for par 5 scoring here, though. The par 5s are going to account for 41.5% of the DraftKings points this week. Just a slight tick over all the par 4s. And you look at the big number here. The long par 4s are what kill these guys. 1.31 strokes over par. So what I'm looking for this week is I want par 5 scores. And I want long par 4 scores, guys that can avoid bogey on long par 4s. Because that's really what it comes down to. You got 3 rounds here. Your short par 4s, negligible. I mean, sure, half stroke over par for your medium length ones, that's fine. You can't get burned, 2 or 3 days in a row on the long par 4s. You get burned 2 or 3 days in a row, you're not in it. You can't make up enough strokes on the par 5s. And the par 3s are still challenging on this course as well, especially the 3 long ones. So guys really need to find good par 5 scores, guys that are able to avoid bogey on the par 4s. This is a complete game type of golf course, folks. You can't half-ass it around here and expect to find yourself on a leaderboard. Top tier players find success at this event. Very simply put, this is a tough golf course. You have to have all of your game faculties about you if you're going to find yourself in contention this week. No two ways about it. So when we'll get into the players that have had some success here in just a second. But you look at the average approach distance here, and we get away from that 125 to 140-ish. Now we're a solid 30 yards further. Everything's 170. That's your average approach distance, right? And some of these are much longer when you look at them. So you guys really need to be on with their irons and really need to have good ball striking this week, especially if you're a shorter hitter. The bombers can get away with just crushing it out there, and if they miss the fairway a little bit here and there, that's fine, and they got a wedge in their hands and then get up and down close to a tight pin. Again, high ball flight guys, like I just talked about a second ago. But there is an opportunity for a bomber to sort of disregard accuracy to a degree and just take brute strength and cover some bunkers that others can't, and get themselves into some positions around this golf course on some of these holes. There is an opportunity to do that. But you do still need to try and find the fairway if you really want to attack some of these. As you see in, actually, we'll go right back. As you see in the backdrop here, look at how tight that pin is tucked right behind that bunker on a brutal long par 4. It's a really tough golf hole. Right? And that's what these guys are going to be contending with all week. So the high ball flight, in my opinion, comes into play when they're able to access pins like this. Right? It doesn't matter if they're in the rough. If they only got 75, 85 yards and they got a wedge, you're just slinging that thing straight to the sky and letting it hit soft right next to the cup. And it's a lot harder to do if you're 75 yards back, right? And you're in the fairway, but you don't have the power to get down there. So there's a couple of different ways you can play this golf course. But what we're going to see here in just a second is guys that have had success on this golf course, and I'll zoom in a little bit here for you. And I think you're going to see a couple of things come into play, and one is that you got some real high ball hitters out here. So, for example, JB Holmes, highest apex. Again, apex is a weird measurement on tour, but one of the higher ball hitters on tour is JB Holmes. Tony Finau, real high ball hitter. Gary Woodland, not so much. Brandt Snedeker, excellent win player for what it's worth. Has found his way around this track in a neat and tidy fashion. Keegan Bradley, real high ball hitter, straight and narrow, good driver of the golf ball. He's had success here the last couple of years. His adjusted average is one of the better ones in the field. Again, real high ball flight, real straight hitter. Mark Leishman, high ball hitter. Great win player as well, but high ball hitter. Mark Leishman talks about how he loves it here. Again, you sort of work down this list. Alexander Norn hits a high ball. He had a great year last year in his first performance. But you just kind of go down here. What's interesting is Jason Day, who he's missed a couple of cuts in the last 5 years, so he doesn't show up as high in the aggregate ranks. But he's got a win, and a second, along with 2 missed cuts in the last 5 years. Jason Day, bomber, not known for his accuracy at all, known for being a great putter, great scrambler, and a real high ball hitter. Jason Day obviously has had success here. Now, he's missed the cut twice too, but a win, and a second, I think he's doing something right. And I think a lot of that just has to do with when his game is on, or he's feeling it in his game, and it's around. All he's got to do is just get it down there. Use his wedge, get it up and down, use some of the scrambling, it's putting, sink a few putts, and you're rolling out here. So Day's sort of prototype of a game is sort of what I think about when I think about how do you attack this golf course. And his is just, get it down there and get a wedge and sink a putt or two. But Day's not known for his driving accuracy at all. So I lean Bombers. This week, I lean Bombers, and maybe I don't care so much about the accuracy, because you look at again at the top: JB Holmes, bomber; Tony Finau, bomber; Gary Woodland, bomber; Keegan Bradley, bomber; John Rahm, bomber; Leishman hits a long ball. All these guys that have had success multiple years in a row here at this course, they all tend to be towards the upper end of distance. Off the tee. Charles Howell III, he's got the best course history here in terms of his adjusted average. He's not a short hitter, but he's not a bomber, but he does everything really well, right? He's just great short game, great approach. He's gonna hit it longer than most. He's probably gonna keep it in the fairway a little more than maybe some of these other guys. Charles Howell III's absolutely dominated this track over the last 5 years. Great results for him. So you look at Brendan Steele, guy that's had some just decent results throughout the years, a guy that's probably cheaper on the price range to round out a lineup or something this week. What does Brendan Steele do? Just long and straight off of the tee, good long irons. Same thing with Emiliano Grillo, right? Great off of the tee, straight hitter, good long. Actually, there he is right there, 12th last year. Grillo's shown some improvement year over year. It does seem to be that guys need to play this course at least once to kind of get a feel for it. That said, there are some guys that had a lot of success in their first round, specifically Noren and Palmer last year. A lot of success in their first go-around. Brendan Harkins also had a top 15 in his first go-around. I guess you don't have to have some experience here, but I think it tends to help. You see guys that have, kind of just like Grillo, they steadily improved their results over the times they've played it, getting to know how the wind plays off these cliffs and things like that. So, I think that the recipe for success this week is finding guys that are at longer than average, have the ability, just the ability to even get home and two on some of these really long par fours, and the ability to put themselves in really good positions on the par fives. Because the par fives are quite a bit longer than what the players have been used to the early part of the season. Again, this is the first real golf tournament and real golf course these guys are going to face compared to the Desert Classic and, the 21 under, 22 under type of scoring environments. You're not going to have that here. Guys are going to need to get up and down from some bad spots. They're going to be put in some really uncomfortable short yardage situations. You do have to have a complete game. You look at the guys that, Tony Finau is going to be extremely popular this week, but you look at the guys that have won this event: Jason Day, Alexander Norton, your top 4 class golfers. Get into 2017, John Rahm, Charles Howell III, class golfer up here. These are not second tier, third tier players. You're not going to have an Adam Long win this week, in my opinion. Brandt Snedeker, Kevin Streelman, Jimmy Walker, all class players. 2016, a couple of years ago, those guys were at the peak of their game, right? Class players. JB Holmes seems to always be in the mix here. Charles Howell III, same thing. Excuse me. But again, class players win this event. right? You're not going to find too many guys, out of the back of the pack that are gonna vault their way, into contention this week. You're gonna have one or two, sure, but in terms of winning and closing out an event like this, you need to find your stud and who you think it's going to be and build around them. Because you see, like, with the exception, I guess, 2014, Scott Stallings, but you look at the guys right behind him, all class golfers, all really strong golfers. Again, this is a strong field, strongest field we've seen so far this year. So you got a lot of top end guys that have the ability to get it done here. You got some guys making their first starts of the year, but for the most part, guys have shaken off the rust and they have prepped for this. The one big question mark we do have here, Tiger Woods, obviously played very, very well at this golf course over the years. Not always in this particular event, because we've also hosted an Open here and some others. But Tiger Woods played very well at this golf course. Been struggling the last two events. Certainly will be one of the more polarizing players at the top of the board for players to decide on this week. So something to keep an eye on is Tiger Woods and his ownership. FanShare is going to have you covered with all the ownership for all the golfers this week. Again, first full field, first big tournament of the year, first real tournament of the year, in my opinion. So it's exciting. I'm glad to have some top tier talent, all teeing it up in a big field this week. So hopefully we're in store for some really good golf. It's an amazing golf course. One of my favorites on tour. Really enjoy watching golf at Torrey Pines. So wish everyone the best of luck. DFS Jimmy signing off for this week. We'll see you guys next week.